like the S tier level bets, by far, logically, are the race match bets, without a doubt. How about I start us off with what my gut feel is? And I think it's a 50-50 flip-flop chance, technically based on the probability of the forecast tomorrow. You have to
Hmm.
make a decision. Is it going to rain in the Belgian Grand Prix, or is it not going to rain?
I'm leaning on more on the side of it's going to rain. I think
Okay,
we've
yeah.
seen, even if it's scattered for a couple of laps, I think rain is going to have an impact, or the track is damp to start. I think the rain, they will be talking about the rain having an impact.
And I think that that changes the narrative for tomorrow, maybe slightly, because there were some different setup choices over the weekend. And it was very clear that the McLarens had set their cars up for downforce, and it was clear that George did the same thing. And
Hmm.
I think that they will be the benefactors of that setup choice tomorrow. I think Lewis Hamilton is going to go backwards because he's taken a slimmer wing. He was trying to, he looked like he was trying to take advantage of reducing drag in sector 1 and 3. And I have to imagine that that's going to be problematic if we get the weather that we think we're going to get tomorrow. I think that's you just he's taking a chance. George took a chance. They went in different directions. I think that George's decision is going to be correct, and I think the McLaren's decision is going to be correct. What just I don't want to get too much into it because I have a lot of other points to make. But what do you think, just in
Yeah.
general, with just those thoughts?
So you're correct in that Lewis has and Mercedes has a smaller wing than McLaren. McLaren brought a huge wing. I think it
Yeah,
might be the biggest on the grid for whatever
I
reason.
think it is. I,
I
I
think
think
they
it
have
is.
a new DRS package where they'll get the delta if it is dry, and in the
Yeah,
wet it'll certainly help them. Lewis
yeah,
has a smaller wing than George and a lower downforce package than George. When I heard
yeah.
that,
George.
I took that as he's a more experienced driver, and in the wet you can work the throttle a little bit better, and he doesn't require the artificial downforce that the car is going to provide George, where Lewis would rather have the top speed in Eau Rouge and in the final sector because he
Yeah,
can
but you don't.
manage the second sector fine. And I mean, to your point, it was raining throughout all of qualifying. We should have seen George and his higher downforce package go faster. He never did.
No, but I don't
I
think
took
that.
that
I
as
think
Lewis
the.
just has more experience.
I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think 10 laps is enough to fully tell the story about how it's
I'm
going
talking
to
about in all the
impact.
qualifying too. It was wet in all the in a lot of the qualifying sessions,
Yeah, but I don't think you
and
can
George was never
yield a
ahead of him.
lot of what kind of information can you really yield from that? I think this comes down to tire management ultimately in the end. And I think when you have that extra downforce on the tires, especially when the track is wet and you're not struggling with tire spin and grip, that you
I
end
don't
up
know.
being able to nurse those tires a little bit longer. And I think if we're getting the weather that we both have just committed to thinking is going to happen tomorrow, which I think is a logical way to think,
Yeah,
then I think that that package is going to yield better results ultimately in the end. That's just my opinion on it. I don't if you don't see it the exact same way as me, I still think there's overlap in
yeah.
kind of just the direction that we've both gone in. And it seems like the what okay, so maybe let's just I'm going to throw something on the board. I can't imagine that you don't see this the same way that I do. But let's talk about and we briefly brought this up before, but let's talk about our favorite prop, which is
Hmm.
race match bets team.
I had
And I can
three that
already
I
see
thought
that
were
there's
interesting.
from the race match bets team.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So that's, and I bet you. So right away, I like McLaren v Ferrari taking McLaren at plus 200, and I like Merc v Ferrari at Mercedes minus 138.
yeah.
I think both of those are something that we should be exploring for sure. What's the other one though that you like?
McLaren versus Aston Martin at minus 350. I mean, that's just
McLaren
a
versus Aston
guaranteed one.
Martin.
And okay, so
Yeah.
I
Okay.
almost shied
Fair.
away from
Yeah.
the minus
Fair.
350. I saw you kind
Fair.
of do a little smirk at it. I went
Yeah.
back. This year we haven't been on a lot of bets that long. Last year we were on minus 300, minus 350 a
Yeah.
lot, almost weekly.
Okay. Okay.
And
I really like that bet. And I really like that bet for all the reasons that we talked about before is that you
yeah,
get two cars, you have two bullets, and they're both starting ahead of the two cars behind them. And we don't think, we know that the McLaren is the superior package and vehicle at
it
this
is.
point. The drivers are arguably just as competitive as Fernando Alonso at this point, and you've got George Russell being a cork in the bottle in the middle. Like I love the bet because the other minus 350 bet I'm looking at is enhanced win for Max, and I'm like, why take
No,
two cars instead of one? Like you might
take
as well take
this.
two cars. Yeah.
Take
So
this.
that's throw that down. Like that I
I
completely
put
agree
a
with you. I
big
think
star on it.
that's a very logical bet for sure.
I almost shied away from the minus 350 but I did. I went back and looked, and it was almost weekly. We had a minus 300, minus
Okay.
350 last year.
No. I'm not going to say like I would easily put 500, $600 on that. Like I think
Right.
that's a very
Yeah, right.
intelligent bet.
This was an
Yeah.
interesting little, and it doesn't even have to be Piastri. There's another guy starting right behind him on the grid that could achieve this as well.
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz to finish lap one in fifth or worse. He starts P4 with Oscar in fifth and Verstappen in sixth.
Honestly, like I always fade. I mean, we always fade Ferrari in the long run, but for by the same token, they fire their tires up the fastest because of how the car is designed. I can't. It's hard to
It's not a bad
fade
point.
Ferrari on initial laps, right? On the at the beginning of
Okay.
the race, right? Okay, what
And the
about
odds aren't
starting
that
the race
long.
though? No. What about okay, we're just on the topic. No, okay, I don't want to stray too far from McLaren because we have to plug in. So are we not going to plug in plus 200 McLaren over Ferrari as a race match bet? The team race match bets team. Like how we're not are we so we
We
like the
should.
minus 350. Yeah, can we plug in the so let's just like mark down the McLaren plus 200 over Ferrari. And I think we should also mark down the Mercedes minus 138 over Ferrari.
I had those, so those were the three match bets that I had with the
Like
McLaren
I think we
Aston
have to
Martin.
have them written down. I don't
The
know what
the
like
biggest concern is Charles starts on pole.
does it matter?
And
Like
if it is, okay, so let's talk through this scenario. If it is
doesn't
wet
matter.
or drying and there is spray, that just makes it so much harder to pass.
Yeah.
There is more of an advantage for being on pole, even if you're in an
100%.
inferior machine.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a long way to go. Like I agree with you completely from
And
that
then at some
perspective.
point, if you don't think, which I think you've alluded to, you don't think Lewis gets Checo based on a number of factors, whether it's pace, whether you don't like the first lap, getting that. So now Lewis has to get Checo and Max at some point, goes through all that to get ahead of Charles while he's holding off signs, and then the McLarens are even further back behind both Ferraris.
Yeah, I think like what you're
I'm painting
okay.
doomsgloom. I love the lean. I wrote
That's
them
fine.
both down. McLaren's a
No,
better
I get
car.
it.
Mercedes is
Yeah,
a
like
better car.
right now, like the minus 350 McLaren, like if we just come out of this with one race match bet, we love them, so I can't imagine we only have one. But if we come out with one, like obviously I'm going to take the McLaren v Aston Martin for the reasons that we've talked about. It's just you get the two bullets in the
Hmm.
chamber. They're both starting ahead of them, and they have a superior car. Like it's just like an easy bet to make. It makes me feel very comfortable. Um, I actually, honestly, I would feel more comfortable with McLaren versus Ferrari than Mercedes versus Ferrari.
I think we're
But
analyzing Lewis's setup in his wing a little like the way that you're thinking it's a low downforce package. I think is only in comparison to Russell, and I don't
okay,
know.
that's
Does
fine.
what George Russell decides to bolt on his car? I don't know if that matters to me. And the Mercedes, when we compare it to the McLaren, where they were losing was straight line speed. The Mercedes was too draggy. So the fact that Mercedes has now brought a lower downforce rear wing, that's just an upgrade against McLaren to me, or the field, because their car needed it. Their car, on a high level philosophy, had too much downforce, too much drag. So they brought a
I
smaller wing. And Lewis is saying, I don't care that it's wet. I can make this wing work because I can still get around in sector two, no
that's the
problem.
question though. Is like can
That's the way I'm seeing it.
yeah yeah, and which is fair. You're just like does Lewis Hamilton know what he's talking about? Is that's the question? And you
He's-
think he does?
I
So
think he
that's hey
does.
listen, that's a fair position to have completely. If you think Lewis Hamilton knows what he's talking about, I don't know, man. I
I
don't know
liked
if I
both
can.
teams, Mercedes and McLaren, against the Ferrari. Like, I don't know. We're just
I
picking
know.
on the Ferraris again. And then in
Look,
my
we
mind,
should.
I didn't
We
want to
should.
pick between Mercedes and McLaren because I
No.
still think they're a very similar car. Do you have something that you were hoping to table? Or would you like me to throw something out there?
Well, I was gonna like. Can we just talk a little bit about how do we capture Max's dominance? Is there a way to do that in some way?
There's two interesting ways. Here's the question on Max.
Yeah.
When does he take the lead again?
Well, I know.
Did you
'Cause
look at
get
any of
it's
those?
five. You have to get. Is it five? Do they have tens up or no?
They have tens came up. It's minus 110 for him to have the lead on lap 10 and win. Minus 120 without the win. You'd probably just take the win at that point. Although with all
Yeah.
the chaos, dude, for $10, do you just say, okay, he's only gonna, who cares if he wins after?
Yeah, it doesn't
That
matter.
that's not that much. For him to get it by lap 5 was very, very interesting.
What was that?
Plus 1200. It's
Funny
down to
because I
seven.
had
Sorry, it's down to plus
yeah,
700.
people are just eating it up, obviously.
People ate that one up.
Yeah, it's like
It's
I would
five
still entertain it.
positions. He could get one a lap.
I know.
That's
I
so
still
doable on
man.
Eau Rouge.
What about an actual like more serious bet about? No, you're not gonna like
I'm
this,
dead
but
serious.
no. But leader after lap number team Red Bull after 5 plus 140 because you get Checo too.
I don't care if it's Checo.
What do you mean you
I
don't
don't
care
care
if
if
it's
it's
Checo? You
Checo.
win. You win if it's Checo. Just keep that in mind. Like if he's just superior to Leclerc through 5 laps. Like I guess for the same reason that I said I don't
Max
like
is going to
Sainz
get
falling
Checo by
back.
then. Max has
Max
eight
is
tenths on the field.
I know it's insane. It's so stupid. Man, the way they look how he set up his they have he's running like
I was
Horner
just going
said
to
it.
say, by
Yeah.
all accounts, he's set up for the race again with a little extra downforce.
Yep. Okay, can we just do you know what, man? I'll this is I think you just make 2 bets. I think you put $750 on McLaren just the match bet minus 350, 750 down, and you put 250 on Max to be leading in 10 and win, and that's it. You just run 2 bets. And we have two
Five
we have
and win or
two
10 and win? Oh, you
10
want
and win.
bulk. Yeah, okay.
10
Yeah.
and 10 and win.
So we do all. We have 2 bets. We have 2 bets to win like $350.
I'm just interested in winning money. Like I don't really care. Like I like the I think that we've got some leans that are probably gonna come to fruition tomorrow. I do think Ferrari moves backwards like we've seen. I think that Mercedes moves forwards. This bet has nothing. These bets have nothing to do with any of that. There's two
Right.
absolutes, right? Like we know that we know that McLaren's going to probably move forward, and we know that Max is going to move forward, and that's all you need to really bet on.
I
And if Max is
agree.
going to win the race, he's going to be winning by lap time.
Okay, what about this?
What?
We take the lap 5, but it's a little bit more of a flyer, and then it's like $900 on the McLaren, or
So you just
950.
you make the assumption. Okay, so what does that
So
give us?
now
Like
we're on a
$100?
fun.
We
Let's
get like
see.
10%. So we get a 10. We're saying I don't want to use the word like we're angling for 10%, and then if we get a little extra, we get a little extra. Like we're playing a very interesting game.
Let's see.
I kind of like where you're going here. What's 900 on 350?
257,
I like that.
and then this would be 550.
So you get one. We get 15%. No, it's one. It's one. It's 100. It's just $100 because it's 900. 900
No,
on
five
350.
plus 550 the odds.
Oh, it's plus 550 now for 5 and win.
Mhm.
Oh, dude, I do like this.
That's an $800 payout instead of like the potential 3 something that we were looking at.
So we're just fighting for fit. So we have 15%.
And
that
then
we're
if we
counting
lose
on,
that 100, we
essentially.
win $150.
Is it Max to lead lap 5 and win?
Hold on. Lead after lap number and win 750.
Lead after lap number and win for 5?
Mm-hmm.
Lead
Giving
after
out a
lap.
lot of hmms right now. Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Lead after lap and win.
I kind of
Yeah.
like that as a duo.
Yeah, I do. Okay. I don't need to talk too much about it.
That's to win $1,000. Max goes off at the start.
I'm like, sure, why not? It could easily happen. What do you like?
Or we
it's
win
like
$150 because McLaren just beat
finishes
Aston
ahead of
Martin.
Aston Martin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.